Hey, what's going on, guys? aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 27 today for the Monaco Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Spanish Grand Prix, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. A really exciting race there, an interesting one to say the least, as the title said. Had pretty much everything in that race at Catalonia, and of course, spoiler alert now, obviously off the back of the Spanish Grand Prix, a historic 1-2 for the Haas team, and Magnussen gets his second win of his F1 career there, and so it's one apiece of wins this season. It's looking rather good, but going into Monaco then, I said it might get interesting with maybe the AI now in the European season starting to upgrade a lot more, and so you can see in this zoomed in chart between the kind of top 5 pretty much, you can see how close things are getting. Ferrari with another update here to Monaco to close the gap to us here at Haas. Red Bull come with updates, Mercedes still don't upgrade, and McLaren have upgraded enough. You can see in the bottom right corner, just about McLaren are level pegging now with Mercedes, which is awesome. A broader look, actually looks like Williams have now gone a further step ahead of Sauber and Toro Rosso, have plateaued. You can see Renault have made a huge step ahead of Force India, but again, look back at that top 5 from the zoomed out shot here, just looking from the broad perspective, you can't even see a difference between McLaren and Mercedes, so that's very exciting. Officially, we have a kind of top 5 car fight between McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari and Haas. It's gonna be such an exciting midway part of this season to see if this is gonna close up, and if it does, it's gonna be even crazier than it is at the moment. But Ferrari make a step forward compared to us. Obviously, we've got a major drag reduction upgrade coming for the Canadian Grand Prix. We opted not to have that upgrade come for Monaco because logically it's not going to matter too much here at Monaco. We're going to run max downforce, so I don't suspect this is going to be too big of a deal for us, but we may see Ferrari be a bit better than they have been. But Mercedes, for sure, they're just going to slump even more, and they can't really afford that after Hamilton having 2 DNFs. But it's going to be interesting to see how McLaren, Alonso and Van Dorn do against Hamilton and Bottas this episode for sure. But I mean, either way, even disregarding all of this, Monaco on its own on this game appears to be a very exciting one. I mean, it always is a really exciting one anyway on the F1 games, but obviously last season we got a bonkers result. We had that gearbox failure. Magnussen won the Monaco Grand Prix in Season 1. We had a podium that consisted of a Force India and a McLaren, so you can bet your horses that it's going to be another crazy one probably, you know, even without all these upgrades, but with them, well, I'm just really looking forward to it. So let's get into qualifying then. Of course, probably one of the most important qualifying sessions of the entire season here. So let's go into the Monaco Grand Prix weekend.
Here we are at one of the most difficult circuits on the racing calendar. Welcome to Monaco for today's Formula One qualifying. With the weather as it is today, Anthony Davidson, we have, to some extent, to throw the form book out of the window. Who do you see having the advantage on this slippery, unpredictable track surface?
Traditionally, these are very Adrian Newey conditions. The Red Bull's habit of creating incredible downforce coupled with the high rake they like to run is perfect for the wet, and it's helped them close the power gap a number of times over recent years. I think Force India as well, always a bit of a dark horse in changeable conditions, and of course the McLarens have a fairly good chassis. Having said that, I don't want to make a firm prediction. More than performance, the deciding factor is going to be the timing. The level of wetness out on the track is going to constantly rise and fall, and anyone who can find that perfect window when it's at its driest will have a big advantage out there.
So this Saturday at Monaco just got a lot more challenging. You can see it's heavy rain at the moment. It's going to get lighter and lighter as we get on through Saturday. But as I've stated before, my pace in the wet definitely isn't as good as it is in the dry versus the AI. So going to have to watch out for that and make sure we can actually survive this and get through into Q2 and Q3. Obviously, I wouldn't be too fast at other circuits, but here around Monaco, you really need to be as high up as you can. Otherwise, we're going to find issues with traffic. But actually, thankfully for me in Q1, it went from everyone using the full wet tyres, the blue wall tyres at the start, to in the last 4 minutes we could go out in intermediate. So I've fueled up the car for a fair few laps there, so you can see we're just going to go through about 4 laps I think at the end of Q1, and every single lap I was finding time. Even when I had traffic here, you can see the Force India cars, we go purple, and fastest of all we can have a bit of a tank slapper there on the exit and go side by side with some cars and have some traffic, but we're still going faster and finding time. And even towards the end of the session, I think I was running out of fuel as well. I didn't fuel up the car as well as I thought for the entire time for these last 4 laps, so I had to even bump it down away from maximum fuel flow down to I think even lean mixture on the very last lap of the actual session. But it was still getting faster and faster because that was the difference between the rain, you know, falling quite heavily at the very start of the session and then not at all at the end of this thing. So the track was just drying up, and obviously I've said it before, at Spain, you know, F1 cars are basically like hoovers in these kind of conditions, just chucking up the water off the rear end. So we continue to improve and improve, and eventually we do get into Q2. Thankfully, we do survive that session, and Magnussen can count himself very, very lucky. He just about gets through there in P15. Obviously, at P16 downwards gets knocked out, and the two Red Bull cars have had an absolute mare. Both Red Bulls, the kings of downforce, have been knocked out in these conditions, and they're not taking any further part in qualifying. Verstappen and Ricciardo way down the order, as well as Valtteri Bottas as well. So you've got three major players already out of the top 10 shootout potentially, which invites other people. You know, McLaren were going to be there, but now the other teams on the cusp, maybe Renault, Force India, they could have a really good chance. You just never know any of the other cars in the midfield or the lower kind of back markers. They might have a chance here, because that's what happens when you have a track like Monaco and you have these kind of conditions. So into Q2, you can see fast forwarding through this session, because it started off as intermediates, but I could see the radar was saying it was going to get to dry by the end of it, and thankfully for me, I was correct there. By the very end of the session, you can see literally we're in the last minute there. This is my one and only flying lap on ultra soft tyres, so not even hypers. I'm using the middle compound tyre, because remember now it's dry, these tyres are the tyres I have to start on at the start of the Monaco Grand Prix on Sunday. So I've qualified quite tactically on ultra soft tyres, and because I was pretty much the last car out there on the track, I'm able to get through on ultras. You can see everyone else use hyper softs, so I've got a very big strategic advantage here of the fact that everyone in the top 10 now here has to start on those very hyper softs they've qualified on there into Q3, whereas now I can start on ultras and I can play it tactically. We can do a very easy one stop potentially tomorrow, whereas some of these guys might have to try a two stop, and we saw last season the two stop, if you get stuck in traffic, is really not the way to go. So already doing really good work in terms of just surviving the wet session, but then also tactically setting ourselves up for the dry race, which it looks to be completely dry. Obviously, the game could always screw me over and surprise me, but hopefully not. But we come through our first flying lap. Then, of course, I've not even used Hypersofts this entire session on Saturday, so I've got plenty to burn. So we go through on our first flying lap. Wasn't great enough. We're in P8 at the moment, so here at the moment, we're on our second flying lap. We're going to stick through the entire lap here, so you can see the time we're going to gain there. So it wasn't really the best lap in anger on that first attempt. Definitely left some time on the table, and obviously, after the Spanish Grand Prix, where I definitely knew I maybe could have challenged for pole position along with my teammate who did end up getting pole at Catalunya, I wanted to make sure we went out there and tried our best. But at the moment, having a few little lockups here and there. Of course, the track, to be fair, remember, the track is green right now because it's been raining at the very start of this day. That washes away the rubber and kind of makes it a little bit slipperier. And when the track dries up, then effectively you've got a bit of a green track because the cars haven't rubbered in the surface as well as they would have without the rain being there. You can see a little bit deep into the chicane and had to kind of go full opposite lock to kind of get around the corner, and so it wasn't ideal. A little bit of a graze on the right hand side and going a little more hot. You can see the little wiggle and change trying to keep the car in a straight line, so the car's a little bit off balance at the moment. And then into Raskas, I get it horribly wrong, and it's just a case of trying to survive and not hit the wall there. So he definitely lost a good maybe 2-3 tenths in that corner alone at the last point, so a little bit upsetting. And across the line, it's going to be P9 for us, and so we go down the order as other people improve. Magnussen, to be fair, actually only gets P7, so that's surprising pace from the Haas around here because I thought we would have done better. But you can see Lewis Hamilton, reigns supreme, the reigning world champion on pole position, but a very, very shocking top 5 there. You've got Nico Hülkenberg on the front row in second place there, Van Dorn third, Perez fourth ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and then of course Brendan Hartley has done a great job to be in the Toro Rosso to split both us Haas, and then Lance Stroll, to be fair to him, in a Williams car has got 10th place. That's pretty good showing, but yeah, very topsy-turvy qualifying. You've got the two Red Bulls way down there and Bottas, Raikkonen out in Q2, and then Vettel has been pipped by the Renault, McLaren and Force India, so I can't be too disheartened by P9. Definitely already without the race itself happening, it's going to be a bit of a crazy one, and it might get a little bit crazier for us personally because going into just before the race, I looked at my gearbox because I learned from last season. Remember last season we had a major gearbox issue. Right now our gearbox is yellow, 71%, and I feel like over 70% is, it's like the tyre wear. You're in a territory where you could get a failure. You know, when you go over 70% tyre wear, you could get punctured randomly, and I think it's the same thing with the gearbox. Over 70% and you could get a random gear missing or even a gearbox jam. I don't want that, and I've learned from last season, I'm not going to take the risk, although it is probably one of the worst places to take a gearbox penalty. I'm going to go for it because I'd rather have the penalty and just make up ground in the race than actually have it jam or fail on me mid-race like I did last year, which was a big calamity in the end and just too much stress for me. So we're going to take the penalty on the chin and we're going to have a real interesting Monaco Grand Prix ahead of us. Let's go to the grid. Let's go to the intro. We're ready for a big fight back here.
A proper road race, and in the true meaning of the word. That was how Mr. Monaco, the late great Graham Hill, once described this iconic event. The cars we drive have come a long way in the intervening half-century, but still we race on those same public roads beside the Mediterranean Sea. There's no victory more coveted than that of the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco then. It's not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo, and although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. Also here, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Now, I want to ask you about Kimi Räikkönen. As ever, the threat of unreliability is never far away, and indeed they'll be starting out of position today due to a power unit component change. So it's going to be a difficult task to move forward from there.
Everyone has to deal with penalties or reliability issues from time to time throughout their career. You just have to suck up the pain and get on with the job at hand. Today isn't about performing a miracle to put the car back where it should be. It's about effective damage limitation.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, with Stoffel van Dorn alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Vettel, Esteban Ocon, and Hartley, Stroll, Leclerc, Hülkenberg. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Fernando Alonso, Sirotkin, Sainz, Max Verstappen, and Raikkonen, Ricciardo, Magnussen, Marcus Ericsson and Valtteri Bottas. The engineer and Pierre Gasly rounds off the grid. Now it's almost time to lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So here we are for a very difficult Monaco Grand Prix ahead of us. We're down in P19, which I don't exactly know how that's happened, because the last time I checked, a gearbox penalty in F1 was only a 5-place grid penalty. I don't know if there was some kind of rule of, because obviously multiple people you saw on the grid sequence there had penalties. I end up having my teammate still ahead of me, like 2-3 places above me on the grid, despite being down in P19. He's only like P16 or 17 now. I don't know if I got pushed down further due to other people also having penalties that were applied before me, but yeah, P19 from the Monaco Grand Prix may as well be last place, so it's a bit of a last question mark challenge then here at the Monaco Grand Prix, and it's going to be very difficult because we saw how bad the traffic issue was in Season 1, but you guys know me, never going to give up on a challenge like this, and if anyone can overtake around here in Monaco, it's me against some AI, so let's see if that famous Raskas dive bomb can make a showing here once or twice. We're ready for it. It's going to be a one-stop for us. Obviously, we've qualified on ultra soft tyres. We have to start on that compound F tyre because we still got into the top 10 despite the penalty, so the rule still applies. So ultras to super softs, then one stop, hopefully try and dodge some two stoppers, and let's see what we can do here on a Sunday at the Monaco Grand Prix, the jewel in the Formula 1 calendar. And we're going now to 5 red lights for round number 6 of Season 2 here of the F1 2018 career mode. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a good initial getaway against Valtteri Bottas there, and onto Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso behind us into turn 1. Nice and easy. Just want to, survive this basically and get through unscathed. We do so up into P18, get ahead of Bottas, so that's good. Nice and early. Up ahead, Magnussen overtakes Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber Alfa Romeo. We're going to try and have a little look around the outside of the Swede, down the inside into the, oh my god, into Casino. That was very close. I nearly had my front wing chopped off there. To say I was surviving turn 1, I nearly ruined it all there. But look at that. Ericsson has just dived 3 cars there. What on earth have I just seen down the inside of Mirabeau? Ericsson's got ahead of a Red Bull car, the Ferrari, and my teammate there. The Sauber just overtook 3 top cars of the Haas, Ferrari and Red Bull. That is amazing. So Ericsson maybe showing me how it's done, and maybe I need to use some Marcus Ericsson spirit here today, try and get past some cars, and straight away it's going to be past my teammate maybe, as we're on lap 3 now already, 2 laps later. No order has changed. I mean, Monaco being Monaco, there's definitely going to be some periods in this race where nothing really changes, because it's going to be, even though I can make some passes, it's still going to be a bit of a build-up to make these passes. I just can't find room past my teammate quite yet. At the moment, bit of an update then on the race. Hamilton is in the lead of this Grand Prix, streaking away from Stoffel van Dorn in second place. Then you've got the Force India of Esteban Ocon, I believe. Then Sebastian Vettel's Ferrari there. Obviously, Kimi's the one way down the order. Then you've got Sergio Perez in the second Force India. Then you've got the Toro Rosso, Williams, and then Renault. So a very interesting top 10. And even after all the penalties were applied for the grid start, we've still got a very mixed up top 10. And then behind them is another Williams car, the Sauber of Charles Leclerc. Then you've got Fernando Alonso ahead of, I think that's Max Verstappen, I believe. And then you've got the Renault, another Sauber of Ericsson. Then you basically get back to us, obviously. Then you've got, what was it? Dan Ricciardo, Kimi Raikkonen, Magnussen, and then myself. So we're still getting through the opening laps here and still yet to find an opening and a way past my teammate. Getting a little bit frustrating now as we're on lap 5 and we're still not past him. So it's time to maybe get the elbows out a little bit and try and be a bit bold under braking. We're going to thread the car like a needle through the swimming pool chicane, get the exit we need off the left-hander there to now get the momentum down the inside. We go of Raskas there, double lock up, get the elbows out a little bit. I think a tiny bit of contact was made, but not too much. Magnussen comes in anyway though, so that is actually so typical of me, like making a pass when exactly literally my teammate was going to come in anyway. Looks like a whole gaggle of cars have come in. I think all these guys are doing 2 stops, remember, because Vettel's in, the Force India's in. I think Van Dorn's been massively screwed over there because he's lost 3 positions. That's Vettel, the Force India. Then you've got the Williams car. I think that's Lance Stroll. Then there's Van Dorn. So Van Dorn was in second place. He's now behind 3 cars. So I think he's just lost second and he's down to an effective P4 or 5 there in the running order. Magnussen also makes the pit stop there. And so at the moment, I think Hamilton's also made a pit stop because in the lead of the Grand Prix now is the Russian Sergei Sorokin in the Williams. Then you've got Leclerc in second and then Alonso in third place there on the road. So I think all the 2 stoppers have already started to make their pit stops. Obviously the hyper stops not going that long then on heavy fuel. On lap 5 they pit in. But yeah, very frustrating. I mean, it was a really nice move anyway, either way, that I made on Magnussen. Raskas, the infamous pass I always love to make here at Monaco, but he comes straight in, obviously, how it always goes. But yeah, Hamilton there, you can see, is right behind me. So he's already made his pit stop. So all the top guys on Hypersofts have already started their 2-stop strategy. So the only kind of guys remaining are pretty much most of the 2-stoppers, I think. As you can see, Sorokin, Leclerc, Alonso, all on Ultrasoft tyres because they didn't qualify into the top 10. And then obviously you've got the likes of myself who are able to continue on because I qualified in Q2 on Ultras. So now we're right up the back of Kimi Raikkonen then, and we're up into P9 now with all those overtakes made due to the pit stop. So looking pretty good obviously at the moment, but we need to see how everything shakes out once we obviously see the 1-stop v the 2-stop actually work out, because at this phase now I can't really tell where I actually am on the grid once everything shuffles out. But at the moment, you've got to say it's looking pretty good up into P9, at least on the road. But you can see having difficulties trying to get past Raikkonen at the moment. The tyre wear's not too bad, but the car, I got to say, is definitely feeling like it did on my Q3 lap time. I don't know. I feel like maybe in Season 2 here, I should have maybe changed my setup balance a little bit more, because from Season 1 to Season 2, this car felt a little bit more kind of on its toes a bit and kind of on edge, like a sudden bit of movement mid-corner would make the car very unsettled. So I don't know what that was, but the feeling from Q3 on my lap there, where I was making so many mistakes, has continued on here. But saying that, we're going to make a tasty little cheeky move down the inside, the hairpin on Raikkonen after being held up by several laps there by Kimi. I just got so frustrated and kind of like, okay, mate, you need to get out of the way. I'm just going to do you with a hairpin. And on board from Kimi, to be fair, he gives me the room, and he's caught napping here because it looks like he's literally going like a pedestrian into the hairpin, and he just has to let me go, otherwise he's going to make a crash. So, you know, a little bit forceful, but sometimes at Monaco you have to do things like that, because otherwise you're going to end up being held up for the entire race. So I'm not going to just sit there and take it from the AI there. So we get through Raikkonen, now we try and get through Ericsson if we can, ideally on lap 10 here. I don't have quite the run through swimming pool that I was hoping for to maybe make a pass into Raskas. Here you can see I tried a little bit and looked at it, but ultimately lock up on the front left and just stay behind him through the last corner. Then we have DRS opening that up. You can see high on the ERS mode, trying to manage it as best we can at the moment. Also the same with the fuel. The fuel definitely burns quite fast here around Monaco, but into turn 1 you can see how much time I'm gaining under braking. You know, the difference in pace between the Haas and the Sauber right now is madness. But still, you know, Monaco being Monaco, Ericsson at the moment doing a great job on lap 11 now. On the very next lap, we're going to try down the inside. Here we go through swimming pool. It's a very nice move on the outside of the second part there. Very unorthodox place to make a move there, but we've made it work. and we've made it stick there through on Marcus Ericsson. But saying that, on the very next lap, you can see I'm low on ERS and lean mixture because I'm trying to save fuel and battery because I don't have too much here. And Ericsson basically invites him to make a move down the inside. He dives it down the inside, a bit of a Sergio Perez-esque kind of dive from 2013, if you remember, when the Mexican was going crazy here in the McLaren. And then Ericsson makes it work, to be fair to him, and he caught me off guard because I was trying to save fuel and battery. In doing so, my car was so slow off that traction zone into the tunnel that the Sauber, I think, was deploying all his electrical battery, obviously, probably on rich mix as well, and was able to re-overtake me. But now we have to try and re-overtake Ericsson then to the inside of turn 1 now. So it's been a pretty good scrap there with this Swede so far at Monaco. We obviously had lap 1, nearly chopped off our front wing on him, and now we're having a nice tasty battle for about 4 laps here. 4 laps too long, though, for my liking on a Sauber, really, with this upgraded Haas. And so as we swing through 3 laps later, lap 17, and as we get to the back of that train, they all come in, and so we're going to be up into first place. So all those guys have made a pit stop there, and their one and only pit stop of the afternoon, and I'm going to join them 1 lap later. But we've got a bit of clean air running there by just going 1 lap longer. So the overcut, I'm hoping, can work here, because I'm hoping that, I think the Renault was at the back of that train. If he can get held up in traffic a little bit, then maybe I could get ahead of him and maybe others. So now we're onto a set of red super soft tyres, and that's us to the end of the Grand Prix then. So let's see where we filter out, and effectively this may be minimum where we end up finishing in the Grand Prix. So we're just going to be out in a little bit of traffic there. You've got the Red Bull Ferrari passes, there goes the Force India, but here we go outside and ahead of Sergio Perez, and we've already jumped Perez and the Renault, and I think also the McLaren of Van Dorn. I think that orange dot on the mini-map is Van Dorn, so we've jumped 3 cars there, and we find ourselves now behind Verstappen v Sebastian Vettel, I think that is, and up ahead of them is going to be Lewis Hamilton, who leads the way of the Monaco Grand Prix. But remember, Hamilton still has to make 1 more pit stop. He's on ultra-soft tyres now, and those won't go to the end. In second place is then Valtteri Bottas, so surprisingly it's a 1-2 for Mercedes right now, but I believe Bottas is on, he's on super softs. Bottas has been on those super softs since the beginning of the Grand Prix, so he's yet to even make a pit stop yet. Then it's Sorokin, then you got a Force India of, I think that's Ocon, Vettel, Verstappen, and then myself. So we're pretty high up the order, actually. So we're looking very, very good at the moment in this Grand Prix. And the same can be said for Verstappen, because remember, Verstappen was only maybe 3 positions ahead of me at the start of this Grand Prix, because obviously he got knocked down Q1. So both me and the Dutchman can, pat ourselves on the back here if we finish in these positions. The same can't be said for my teammate Magnussen, who did only start 3 positions ahead of me. He's way down the order in I think the bottom 6 of the grid at the moment. Of course, though, he was forced to start on hypersoft tyres, a lot like some of the other top 10 guys, because he qualified on those tyres in Q2. So you can see now on that 22, you can see how much of a benefit that was. And now the decision I made of qualifying ultra soft tyres in Q2, despite it just stopping raining on Saturday, is now paying dividends back to me here in this race. So we're up in P5 now at the moment. Sainz behind us, Verstappen ahead of us, and so now can we try and close up on the Dutchman and overtake him? Meanwhile, we've got Bottas then eventually in for his one and only pit stop of the Grand Prix. He, remember, did the reverse of my strategy effectively, and then there finally goes Lewis Hamilton for his second stop. And you know what? I think he might go behind all of us here, because we're only here. This is the train of Sorokin, Vettel, Verstappen, and myself. Vettel is also in. I completely forgot about Vettel, probably also qualified on hypersoft tyres, and he wasn't too down the order with penalties, so he's also pit. And so your top 3 are Sergei Sorokin, Verstappen, and then myself. You can see how hard I'm pushing, though, into turn 1. Complete drift into turn 1 as I'm trying to chase after Verstappen and keep up with him. Obviously, the Red Bull has a bit of a downforce advantage, but I'm trying to do my best to close up in the areas of the car, areas of the track where I can. But with the Russian in the Williams being P1, he's going to slow Verstappen right down, so it only takes us 1 lap then to close right back up to Verstappen after that mistake we made 2 laps ago. And now, can we try and move into Raskas? Maybe it's going to be the opposite, around the outside this time of Raskas here. Very different kind of way of trying to pass here, around the outside of the last corner. So close. Me and Verstappen nearly wedge ourselves into a bit of a pickle there. I don't know if 2 cars can actually go side by side completely in the last corner, but you can see how good of a job Verstappen is doing at defending from me, and he's really being a bit of a nuisance to me at the moment. I tried my best there on the kind of anti-infamous Raskas pass. Instead of going down the inside, I tried it on the outside there, and now on lap 27, 2 laps later, Verstappen's still there, and I'm still staring at the back of his car, and I still don't have an answer here. I'm trying to save ERS when I can in the middle of sector 2, using that, as we go towards Raskas, and then off the last corner, up the hill as well in high mode, but then going back down to medium, but nothing is working at the moment for me. But by the time we get to lap 30 now, so literally 5 laps laps after I first tried that around the outside move. I'm going to try it again. I've got good momentum here, so we're going to do it again. And this time around, I brake a little bit later, go a little bit deeper into the corner, but that allows us to turn and rotate the car around the outside of Verstappen a little bit better maybe, and get a better run. But Verstappen's hit the wall, and Verstappen's hit us! And we've broken a bit of our front wing, and Verstappen has just ruined our entire race there. The Spaniard Carlos Sainz passes Alonso's round on the outside as well as Hamilton. Now Hamilton and Alonso will go side by side once again in the Season 2 of this F1 2018 career mode, but we're down to P6 now with major orange damage on the front right of the rear of the wing, and also yellow on the left. I've essentially almost got a 2019 spec wing at the moment on the left hand side. On the right, I've lost a whole entire cascade and end plate element there, and so locking up and just trying to now wrangle the neck of the car around the circuit. One of the most difficult places to actually have a car with a broken wing. And now Leclerc is going to go down my inside there. The homeboy down the inside, he breaks a bit of his front wing actually as well, so it's going to be a bit of chaos here at Monaco. We're ahead of Raikkonen for now, but eventually towards the end of that, we're going to make it through ahead of Raikkonen, but coming to the pit lane then ultimately, as well as Verstappen as well. He has to come in as well, so that was so... I just don't know what that was. Like, obviously, yes, that's a very aggressive move by me to try it around the outside of Raskas, but we pulled it off last time. We managed to go through and survive that. I don't know what changed this time. It seemed like Verstappen actually hit the wall on the right and then ping-ponged and kind of bounced to the left and smashed into me, because it looked like I had all the room in the world, and then suddenly Verstappen closed the door on me as we're getting into the exit of the last corner. So let's look at a replay here. On board with Verstappen here, so obviously I go around the outside, you can see that in the mirrors there, but nothing, everything's fine right now. And then look at this. Verstappen hits the wall on the right. Verstappen turns in too early for the last corner. He over adjusts for the last corner, hits the wall, and that, like I said, bounced his car into me on the left, and so I've got front wing damage. So now we're trying to re-overtake Van Dorn as we set the fast lap of the Grand Prix now, because obviously we're very low fuel, and it's the first time this entire weekend I've put on the Hypersoft tyres in the race, obviously. So we overtake Van Dorn there. He's got some sort of issue because he's going very, very slow. And so we're up into P19 trying to recover any sort of positions in this race, just for a sake of dignity, really. And up ahead, we've got a big train of traffic into the hairpin. We go to the left-hand side of Verstappen and also Pierre Gasly to double move on two Red Bull family teams there in the hairpin. We got a 2-for-1 in the hairpin. I'm not going to lie, in the moment of overtaking both of them, I was pretty much an autopilot just driving around. I didn't even really notice I was overtaking two cars until I got through the hairpin, and I just thought, oh, hang on, I've overtaken Gasly and Verstappen in one go. It was such a weird move. Like, I just didn't realise I was doing it until it actually happened. So now we're straight on to focusing on our teammate here, who I mentioned is having a torrid time here in P16 with his 2-stop. Really got screwed over by having a grid penalty and also having to start on the Hypersauce. But we go down the inside of him for the second time now this race, down the inside of Raskas. Just about managed to avoid Hartley with a big lock-up from us down the inside there. But twice now we've got Magnussen down that corner. So definitely kind of, you know, massaging my ego in terms of being beaten by Magnussen quite well at the Spanish Grand Prix last time out. We've done him twice there at that corner and pulled his pants down. So now we're up the back end of the New Zealander, Brendan Hartley in the Toro Rosso, trying to feed it round the outside nice and delicately, tiptoeing through down the inside of Casino, and we're up into P15. We're literally dancing this car around and on low fuel, obviously, and on Hypersofts for the first time this race. I'm really feeling the groove and appreciating the grip I have compared to Ultrasoft tyres, and especially Super Softs, which are pretty horrendous around here, to be honest. And here we go now down the inside of Dan Ricciardo at the hairpin, catch him napping there, and the traffic, obviously the AI is really helping us out here in the hairpin. Obviously a little bit annoying to see the AI hold each other up so much, but you can't really do much. It's a video game at the end of the day, so I take advantage of it and overtake Ricciardo. But to be fair, I make a mistake there on the exit, so Ricciardo's back down the inside of me in the tunnel. Ricciardo re-overtakes us. We have to make a big dive down the inside, outside the tunnel there, side by side through the chicane. And so Rick Bobby gives us a real good fight, actually, to be fair, after I made a mistake on the curbing and the traction out that right-hander before the tunnel. And so Ricciardo does eventually go down the order, even behind Brendan Hartley into the left-hander, but a bit of a fight back there from him, fair play. But now up into P14, trying to chase after P13. Hulkenberg around the outside of Raskas, and maybe we can make it a successful pass around here this time. Couldn't make it on the Red Bull of Verstappen, and we don't even make it on the Renault of Hulkenberg. It just seems pretty impossible to make a move around the outside there. But saying that, we'll have DRS, we'll have the speed down the inside of turn 1. Here we go on the German, squeeze him out to turn 1, up into P13, and then to round it off here on this last lap of the Grand Prix, closing up to Lance Stroll, who's being held up by the Force India of Sergio Perez. And actually you can see this entire train McLaren into the hairpin, really slow once again, down the inside of the Canadian then at the hairpin, up into P12. You know, if I had maybe 1 or 2 more laps, I might have even got 1 point paying position for P10 there. I think that's Van Dorn's McLaren in P10, but Perez ahead of us, and then the Sauber, I don't think it'll be possible to overtake them. They look a little bit too far away there as I kind of dawdled after overtaking Stroll, but Sergei Sorokin has what, I don't know what he's done. He's won the Monaco Grand Prix. Put your hands together in disbelief and open your eyeballs and recheck. Yep, you're not mistaken. The top left does say Sergei Sorokin, the Russian in the Williams racing car, has won the Monaco Grand Prix. It's a crazy, crazy result here. Once again at Monaco, we come home with no points to show for it today, but to be honest, it's been such a crazy fun one that I don't really care too much. I mean, I do care. It's very annoying not to get any points there because we're looking so good. If it wasn't for Verstappen, we would have been right up there on the podium, but fair play to Williams and Sorokin more so.
Williams today, what a superb victory. So, how exactly did they set themselves apart from the pack today?
I think the key here was just the quality of the racecraft, you know? I mean, how many overtakes did they make overall? I'm sure we had a stats person keeping score somewhere, and it was fantastic to watch, wasn't it? This is a strategic sport at the end of the day, but it's always really gratifying to see close-fought battles on track. It's what all the fans are after.
And now it's time to wind down and celebrate after that fantastic Grand Prix. Here they come, your top 3, out onto the podium.
What a crazy set of results. Sorokin, the Russian in the Williams car, wins that one. Carlos Sainz came in second place in his Renault. Fernando Alonso in P4 behind Lewis Hamilton. You've got Charles Leclerc, P5. Raikkonen, the usual suspect there. Bottas as well. But then you've got Ocon. You've got ahead of Vettel there. Marcus Ericsson makes it into a double points paying position for Sauber. So Sauber might have a good chance of actually leapfrogging Force India maybe. But Williams do a great number, obviously, with the win. For the Drivers' Championship, of course, then, we're still in the lead. And it's the same points gap to Magnussen, because both of us didn't score points there. But now Hamilton's closed up a little bit and has got back into third place ahead of Vettel. Fernando Alonso moves up into fifth place of the championship, so he's really flying the flag there for McLaren as a top team there, single-handedly dragging the car up once again with consistent points there. But you look at that, Sergei Sorokin is ahead of both Red Bull cars. Red Bull, for all the upgrading they've done recently in the last 3 rounds, they've had upgrades every single race the last 3 episodes, they're now being embarrassed by the Russian in the Williams. Like, I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. Leclerc's there in the top 10. It's amazing. This is great. It's only season 2, and we're getting like a top 12 in the Drivers' Championship looking like this. It is sensational stuff there. I'm loving it, and this is why I think this career mode this year on this game is going to go the full 9 yards and go all the way to season 10, because it's just going to mix it up. And we didn't even have a good regulation change. We had durability. That's all that got reset. I can't wait to see when we get other resets how bonkers this entire career mode is going to get in terms of everyone being everywhere. At the moment, the constructors then, we're still obviously leading the way by a decent margin, but Mercedes now pull up into second place ahead of Ferrari. McLaren still stay put in P4 there. Renault move ahead of Red Bull then up into 5th place. Red Bull down to P6. Williams leapfrog Sauber and Force India up into P7 then, and they're only like 11 points off Red Bull. So if Williams have another great race like that, or just more consistent results, they could be challenging Red Bull Racing still. We're 6 races in there. Red Bull still haven't got their act together. And then Sauber have overtaken Force India with a decent consistency there here at Monaco in the last couple episodes. Like I said Sauber were on course to maybe overtake Force India, and they've done that. And Toro Rosso are nowhere. Both the Red Bull family of cars are nowhere this season, and it's crazy to see. And so I'm loving it, guys. If you've enjoyed this episode and you're enjoying the look of this season so far, smash that goddamn like button. It's absolutely awesome. But we're going to round out the episode then and go to the end with the teammate rivalries, then we're going to be actually drawing with Kevin Magnussen, and we're going to beat Fernando Alonso. So we'll get a decent amount of respect from Fernando Alonso, beating him then, obviously esteemed member of the paddock. We're drawing with Magnussen then on this fifth rivalry bout. We're 3-1, but at the moment it's all draw. But due to us not scoring points there, we did not get one. We didn't also get our championship bonus here. We could have got 500 extra resource points, but I didn't get 30 points in the championship. I would have been on course because we got 50. We got what was it, 18 last race. If I would have got 15 here, I would have got 30 points, but I didn't, so I didn't get 500 points. And then reputation-wise, I go down the order in a big way to Haas, and then every single team also loses a bit of respect for me due to the no point scoring position, and obviously we didn't have a great qualifying as well. But obviously, it's one of those things. F1, you sometimes have those kind of off weekends, and you just have to sit back and, just accept that happens. And obviously, it was a crazy weekend all round, so it didn't pan out for a lot of people. So either way, I really enjoyed watching that Monaco Grand Prix back. I hope you guys did as much as I did there as well. So again, hit that up and let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around to, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.